Welcome to the morning feed. Today is Missing Monday, and we're going to be going over the disappearance of Kemberly Ramer. Now, Kemberly Ramer is from Opp, Alabama. OPP. That's right. Go ahead, say the rest. Anyways, she's from Opp, Alabama, and she has been missing since 1997. I did have a little bit of a clickbaity title by saying that the case has finally been heard by a grand jury 3 decades later. That's not actually recent news, but it is something that has happened in the recent years, and it does kind of give a little bit of insight into what may be coming for this case at any point. So let's get into the details and let's make sure that everybody that we possibly can make aware of this case becomes aware so that it becomes covered by more individuals, more podcasts. Because I do believe that even though this incident happened in 1997, it does seem very likely that there could be answers for where Kemberly is and who should be held responsible. So let's put her up on the screen. That is Kemberly Ramer. For anybody looking on a video platform, you'll be able to see that right in front of you. And just so that everybody knows, if anyone has any information, there are a couple of ways that you can contact authorities and share that with them. One being the Opp Police Department at 334-493-4511. You can also contact the FBI at 251-438-3674. Now, in 1997, Kemberly Ramer was living with her father in Opp, Alabama, and she also was very actively involved in her mother's life, too, in Florida. While that may seem like that's a little bit of a distance apart, it really wasn't for Kemberly to travel back and forth between her mom and her dad, because I believe it was only maybe less than a 30-minute drive to get from Opp, Alabama over to Florida where her mother is. So I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe that she actually saw her mom on the Friday that she is believed to have disappeared. So she was living with her father at the time. She's planning for college, and I believe she wanted to be an occupational therapist. And while she's planning for college and kind of just celebrating all those milestones that you do in your senior year, getting your senior pictures done, she was actively involved in sports, had a lot of friends. Kemberly, from everything that you hear about, appeared to be well liked by her parents, by her friends. And it seemed to be that there was a good trusting relationship between Kemberly and her parents. You know, we're here to support you in anything that you need. These are the few rules that you need to abide by in order for us to take care of everything for you. You know, come home on time, things like that. It sounds like they had a good trusting relationship between them and Kemberly. So if they didn't happen to, if it was a busy weekend or a busy day and they didn't see each other a lot, they would leave notes in passing and, things that you would do before cell phones were widely available and you could just call or text and find out, where somebody is or what's going on. So they did a lot of that. And that was pretty normal because they had a good relationship, it seemed. So on the weekend of August 15th in 1997, everything that Kemberly worked for, everything that her parents were looking forward to watching her experience, basically vanished along with Kemberly. So she ended her Friday night. She had a very busy Friday, and then that evening, she ended it with friends and then hanging out with her boyfriend. She was really, like I said, involved with both of her parents. So she went home. She knew what time she was supposed to be home by, and her father had seen her car in the driveway. So everything appeared to be okay and normal. Her father had been in and out of the house all weekend. But he wasn't home much that weekend. He had plans and he was, out doing things. So they were leaving, he left her a note at one point in the weekend, but she didn't respond to the note. And that kind of, seemed suspicious to him. So after looking for Kemberly around the house, he, now this is later in the weekend, Kemberly is believed to have disappeared on Friday. Later in the weekend, when she doesn't respond to his note, he called her mother and just said, have you seen Kemberly? Is she with you? And her mother responded, I thought she was with you. Like I said, her car was at home. Everything seemed normal, but upon further inspection, everything was not. In the words of her mother, Kemberly had it made. No one even considered that she may have ran away with someone or chose to leave without telling anyone where she was going. No one really assumed that. They just assumed if Kemberly's missing and we can't find her, something's wrong. After notifying law enforcement, a few key details eventually emerged in the search for Kemberly. On Friday night, someone had made phone calls from Kemberly's house that she shared with her father. The calls were placed in the middle of the night to numbers that no one in the home could recognize. All the calls were made to certain geographic areas, but none of the calls were actually answered. Now, they were made late in the night. Kemberly's bedroom also appeared to have a few indicators that something may have happened. The room wasn't completely out of in disarray, but there were things that were out of the ordinary and concerning, including that Kemberly may have left unwillingly. At the time of her disappearance, Kemberly was 17 years old. She had clear braces on her teeth. She was around 5'4" and 130 pounds. Those are the words that they would soon have to communicate to law enforcement as they reported her missing. So police and OP, they have shared some interesting information over the years. They've stated that Kemberly did not leave her home that night of her free will, that there's indication of that fact. They also stated that they do have a person of interest in mind. And Kemberly's family echoes that person of interest. A statement that her mother has made many times. Her mother has not been shy about saying who that person is. Decades have passed since Kemberly was reported missing. Her family and friends remain just as committed to finding Kemberly and rallying for justice. If you have any information, we encourage you to please share it. This case is on the brink. Now, the person that her family, the FBI, Alabama Police Department, and pretty much everyone who's put their eyes on this case believes may have been responsible for her disappearance would be the boyfriend of her sister at the time of her disappearance. They're no longer together. But the man who was seeing Kimberly's sister at the time, so Kimberly's sister's boyfriend, is who her mother has let the cat out of the bag for a while now about who that might be. Now, in 2021, the case made it to a grand jury. And from everything that we can gather, we believe that it is very possible that it wouldn't take a whole lot in order to push this case along. Now, we do believe that this case will go before a grand jury again at some point. And when it does, we would really, really, really like the public's support and help and everyone's eyes on this, helping gather information and funneling that information to law enforcement so that finally we can assist in validating. It's not closure, but it's definitely validation of what her family already knows. It would close the chapter in this in this book for them. this book of their lives. This chapter has extended on now for almost 3 decades. Let's see if we can somehow or another affect time here and space and assist this family with getting information to law enforcement as much as possible. There has to be a little bit of information out there that has not yet made it to their hands that would help them in going before a grand jury and kind of wrapping this thing up. If you can hear my dog literally absolutely berating me behind me, I apologize. But I do need to get this out, and I need to get this out today, so I don't want to have to stop and re-record anything. So we're just going to go with the berating behind me. I apologize if you can hear it. Anyhow, I'm going to wrap this up. If we can, let's get as many people involved with justice for Kemberly Ramer as possible and see if we can prevent this case from seeing a 30-year anniversary of being in the investigative phase. Again, if you go over to the website, themorningfeed.com, you'll be able to see Kemberly Ramer's case file, all the important phone numbers, Op Police Department, the FBI. If you scroll down here to the bottom, you'll be able to see there's also Walton County Sheriff's Office who's involved in this case that you can report information to them. And she's getting more adamant back there. And there's also this timeline at the bottom. So thank you very much for listening and over the berating back there. Have a good night.